Welcome to Escaping the Chains podcast. I am your host, John Humphries, and we are brought to you in the studios by Delivered Media. One of the things we wanted to do with this podcast is be very transparent about the things that we've been through and some of the things maybe we're still dealing with. And today I just want to touch on some topics. I have been in recovery for 12 years after I had an encounter with Jesus Christ, and we'll tell that story eventually, in due time. But through that process, through those 12 years, there's a lot of things that I've had to learn about myself. Why am I the way that I am? What are the things that happened to me that made me this way? And I want to tell a story today, and I hope that it resonates with some of you, but we're going to kind of talk about how hiding pain and patching it with pride, how much damage that can cause us and the people around us. So when I was maybe an early teenager, I might have been 12, my grandfather, amazing man, my Grandpa Cottle, had a milk house. That's what they called it. It was kind of a little mini garage, and I think they used to milk goats down in the other part of it, but they called it the milk house or the milk shed. And he needed it painted. So to paint it, it had all this old paint flaking, and that paint needed to be scraped off and painted. And he was paying me, I don't know, $10 an hour. It was pretty good at the time because I'm a little older. But so he got the paint ready, got me the scraper, and I started in on this job. And I was scraping. There's 4 sides of this, and I was scraping the wall. Got it done. Started painting one side. Looked great, got it finished, was really happy with it, but the scraping part was kind of tiring. Like, it was a lot of work, if that makes sense, and I didn't want to scrape anymore. So I decided that I was just going to paint over all the cracked and chipped paint and just paint over it. No big deal, right? And that's what I did, the other 3 sides, and it looked okay at first, I think. From a distance, it looked all right, but eventually, especially as it started to dry, but as time went by, you could see the flaking and the chipped paint and all the work that I didn't do by scraping that off. You could see it, like from a distance or anywhere. You could see that it was like chipping again, and it was just a mess. I had tried to cover up work that needed to be done, and the end result was a lot more work. My grandpa was very patient with me, and he came back out once it dried. I had to scrape all of the new paint off of it, all of the old paint, and it was a lot more work than it would have been had I done it right the first time that I tried. In that, I think that I've learned in my life that wasn't the only time that I did something like this. There have been so many times in my life where something's happened and I've been like, you know what, that didn't bother me. And I just kind of paint over it with pride, which is like, pride is a horrible Band-Aid for wounds and trauma and, those types of things. So my grandfather was very patient with me, and we got it done the right way, but it was a lot of work to go back and redo the things that I skipped over, if that makes sense. Now I want to talk about when I was walking out this recovery journey, I started to realize that I wasn't, people would think they were close to me, but I wasn't letting them super close. And people would think that they knew me, but I wouldn't let them into that. There was just like a protected space around me that nobody could get into. You'd have to be my friend for years, and it still would just take very little for me to just cut you out, find a reason and be like, okay, I'm done with you. And I started to process, and I was like, where is this stuff coming from? Like, why am I snapping on people that care about me, or why am I creating space with all these people who are trying to show me love and trying to care for me? And I had a pastor, Todd, who at one point in my life was like, hey, you should do like a soul tie list and go over all of the names and the people that you have hurt, that have hurt you, and just kind of pray over them and see what gets revealed, and then also ask to be released from those ties, if that makes sense. And I was going through this process, and there was a lot of names on there. It's not all just intimate, physical intimacy, but people that had hurt me, people that I had hurt. And it was going, I would say well, but it's not a fun process. But there was a couple of names on there that I couldn't seem to get past, and I was like, why are these names sticking out? Because, they hurt me, but it wasn't that bad. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal. It didn't really hurt that bad. And what had happened when I was a teenager, I think I was about 19 years old, I had a girl. This is before I was saved, so let me put that waiver out there or clarify that. But I had a girl that I would smoke with and hang out with, and we would mess around, and we were cool. We talked on a regular basis. She wasn't really my girlfriend, but she was a friend, and we hung out. And one night she said that she was staying home because she was sick, and I was like, okay, no big deal. And at that time, I, from time to time, would sell dime bags and sell weed for a little extra money. And one of my friends came by and got some, and I was like, hey, what are you doing tonight? And he was like, well, nothing, man. I'm just going back home and smoking, and I'm just going to chill. Like, I'm not doing anything. And I was like, okay, cool. So a little bit later in the evening, another friend of mine picked me up, and we were driving around, and we drove by my friend's house that said he wasn't really doing anything, and there was cars everywhere. It was packed. He was like having a party. And I was like, dang, his plans changed or whatever. So I was going to stop in. And when I was walking up, I noticed that her car was there too. Still not that big of a deal. Like, everybody must have changed their minds on what they were going to do. But when I walked up, you can see in the front door was all glass, and you could see inside of it. And I saw them like all hugged up with each other, and people everywhere. So all these people that were supposed to be my people saw that this was going on, and not one person contacted me or gave me a heads up or anything. So anyway, obviously, like, I knocked on the door, and the guy friend looked really shocked. But she came out, we talked. She was like, it's not that big of a deal. And yeah, I was like, no, it's not that big of a deal. And I got in my friend's car, and we rolled out. Now, the first thing I told myself was like, I don't care about any of these people. Forget them. Like, I'm done. And actually, not too long after that, I moved away, probably not even 3 months later, I moved out of town. But I always told myself that it didn't bother me, that didn't hurt me, whatever, forget them, like we do. But down the road, as I started to process years and years and years of me having such low expectation of people and not trusting people, like, where did it come from? And it came back to that moment, once I started to process and really do inventory, that one moment where two people that were supposed to be like my people, I felt like betrayed me. But I, in my pride, was like, no, it didn't bother me. I'm good, whatever. But it did bother me, and it did break my heart, and it did change my vision on how I see people, even friendships, dating, everything. I just didn't trust people for years, and that's kind of yeah, you're protecting yourself, but that's a miserable place to be, where you just don't trust anybody, and you expect that they're doing you dirty, and you make stuff up in your head, all kinds of things, because of this one moment that had such a huge impact on how I would respond to relationships and friendships in the future. And man, when I did start to feel it, I realized how much it actually crushed me. And like, I didn't cry about it or anything like that at the time, but like, looking back at it, like, I got emotional, because it was devastating. Those were my people. And not only that, all the people around that were supposed to be my friends were like, and I don't know what they were thinking, but in my brain, it was like, well, forget them too. They all knew, and I just looked stupid. And sometimes when you feel like you look stupid, then your pride kicks into another notch, and it's just like, forget everybody. You know what I mean? I'm doing me, and, this whole place can just burn for all I care. So a lot of times we go through stuff, and it's tough, but because of pride, we decide, hey, that didn't bother me that much. I'm moving on. I don't need to heal from that. I don't need to heal. I'm just going to carry on with my life and not let that impact it. But it does. It does impact it in a major way. I was hurt. I was a hurt 19-year-old for years, and people would say, like, they would act like I'm cold when we were supposed to be close, and when stuff would end, they'd be like, you're just so, like, why do you act so like you don't care? And the truth is, like, I didn't, because all of those nerves inside of me were numb, because my pride and just the pain I had felt before, I didn't want to feel it again. And isn't that the thing that we try so hard to do, is like preserve ourselves once something hurts? We don't want to feel it again, so we just avoid being in that situation altogether. And you can be in relationships with people that care about you and friendships and family, and you're numb to it because pride just killed that nerve. And the thing is like you press this stuff down like it doesn't matter. You press it down inside like you don't care. But the truth is it's growing into something nasty, and it will affect and touch everybody in your life, everybody, from your parents to your kids to friends to dating, all of that stuff. And that's what had happened to me. It was like I was just so numb. It had turned into this nasty thing inside of me to where I really didn't care. I think I did care, but it felt like I didn't. Like I was expecting you to go. I was expecting people to leave. So when they did, I wasn't like shocked or stunned. I wasn't hurt by it. And maybe I was hurt, but I refused to feel those feelings. And that's happened to me a lot in my life, as I've refused to feel something and told myself I'm okay, and then I move on and I get myself into another mess. And I don't know if I'm the only one, but I have gotten myself into a lot of messes because I just didn't allow myself to heal. And I didn't look at myself, or I didn't look at my pain and just accept that it was painful and go through a process that might be helpful and healing. So if that's you, I encourage you to just look at your pain and accept that it was painful and start to heal from it. Because just like I was talking about with the milk shed, you can paint over that pain, but like the more you paint over it and the more coats you put over that pain, the harder and the more work it is to get that dug back up and get it painted and relaid right. So the longer we hold on to that, or the longer we let it grow inside of us, the more difficult it becomes to heal. And it becomes something nasty, because I would rip your head off. I would snap. If I thought you were getting too close, it was just like survival mode for me, and I would just do whatever I had to do to create distance. So if this hit home with you, I would strongly encourage you to do like an inventory. And sometimes you got to go back. And I know that part like really can suck, because I've had to do it more times than I'd like to count, because we've had a lot to work on with me. But go back and, find those places of that pain, and then don't do it alone. Find somebody to open up with about it, somebody that you trust, because not everybody needs to know everything, but somebody you trust. And then get into prayer about it too. Talk to God, have Holy Spirit highlight these things inside of you and start to heal. Because if you don't, you'll ruin things, and you'll be like, man, what was I thinking? You'll look back and be like, I just destroyed something for no reason. Well, there was a reason, and it's hiding back there in the past somewhere. So we thank you for listening in. And I know we're going to do different types of episodes. So we're going to have some testimonies. We'll have some, messages like this today. We are so thankful for all of the support. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on iTunes, Spotify, the Facebook page, Instagram. Yeah, and just reach out to us. If there's topics or there's things that you've struggled with and you'd like for us to cover, feel free to, on one of those platforms, just comment, or, if you send us messages, it'll be a little bit longer. But if you just comment on the post and say, hey, could you touch on this? We can bring somebody in that, knows about it. Or, there's a good chance, like I've had to go through a lot of work just to get to the place where I'm at right now. So a lot of the stuff we've touched. So please share it with a friend. If you know somebody that may be struggling with this, send this to them, and, maybe give them some hope. We want to thank Delivered Media. They do all our production, and we're so grateful for them. We are Escaping the Chains podcast, and thank you so much for listening. Do the inventory, dig in, figure out why. Sometimes when you're responding to stuff and you're like, why am I like this with people? There's probably something hidden in your past that you covered up with pride. Unbury that in a healthy way, whether that's talking to, a pastor, a therapist, like somebody that you trust, and start to unpack that. And really, what's really important is take it to God and ask Holy Spirit to highlight those things in your heart. We are so grateful for you all. You all have a blessed day. Thank you for tuning in.